Ty, I'm really excited to talk to you today, man, because I think one of the general themes of a lot of our people, our generation in the world that I've seen in the last few years, especially since COVID, is the idea of wanting to be free with their time, their money, to be able to travel wherever they like. And you are someone who has had the opportunity to do a lot of those things around the world. You travel to a lot of countries in Europe and Asia. So I'm excited to talk to you, man. And I know that you have a lot of wisdom and advice to offer to people who are looking to find a way to build a lifestyle centered around freedom.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me.
So right now you're currently in Poland. What made
That's
you choose going there when you had the opportunity to finally choose whichever location you wanted to be in long term?
I wouldn't say I'm like 100% sold on Poland. There's a lot of things I like about it. But originally, I was living in Ukraine, in Kiev, and then the whole conflict happened with the war in Russia. So I figured Poland is kind of the next best thing you can go to. So it's kind of like how I ended up over here was I would check out Poland and just see what it has to offer in terms of like people, culture, food, real estate opportunities. I found that it's very similar to Ukraine. Kind of it's a Slavic culture and it's kind of the vibe that I like to be around. But yeah, in terms of Poland, my grandmother was Polish, like my great grandmother.
Hmm.
So that kind of like led me to come to Poland just to kind of see where I'm from. The majority of my family is Ukrainian and Polish, so I had my family come out to Warsaw this summer to visit, and fuck, man, can we restart, bro? Is that
Yeah,
possible?
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Or you can just like edit this out and like clip in sort of the new shit.
Yeah. Everything can be edited, so it's all good.
Okay. Good, man. All right. Yeah, so what led me to Poland was living in Ukraine for the past 2 years, kind of on and off during COVID. Used to have a ex-wife from Ukraine, so that kind of opened me up to Eastern Europe in general. I started in Prague. Shortly after, went to Ukraine, went to Hungary, went to Bosnia, Serbia, Croatia, a bunch of different places, and I just found that Poland has a lot to offer in terms of like protecting its culture. It's very Polish, and a lot of people in Poland in general say that they're racist towards other people, or the rest of the EU is saying that they're racist because they don't want mass migration. And not to say I'm racist, but I like what they're doing protecting their culture compared to where we're from in Canada. It's very diverse and there's not much of a culture left. It's just too many different cultures in my opinion. So I think it's important that Poland kind of protects what it has, and I've enjoyed being a part of it. Even myself, just being a somewhat Polish guy but not speaking the language, I've experienced racism firsthand. People don't want to conduct business with me because I don't speak Polish or I look a certain way or just I don't fit in, you could say. But that's all right. I like the challenge, so that's why I'm here.
So in terms of some of the experiences you've had, I know again, people who from Canada usually travel to Europe. Most people go to Western Europe or Southern Europe or Northern Europe, but not a lot of people actually go to Eastern Europe who don't have a lot of family there. Of course, people do travel a bit. It's not like it's non-existent and you'd be shocked to find a Canadian who ever has traveled to somewhere in Eastern Europe. But what would you say have been some of the pros and cons that you've noticed of going to the places in Eastern Europe?
I just find it's a lot cleaner. The people they're a lot more interesting. They take more time to warm up. You know, you go to Spain, people are super friendly, and in general, man, like most places you go that are extremely touristy, like Greece, Spain, Barbados. Maybe Barbados is not a good example. Mexico. everybody's like, amigo, amigo, come here. I bet best deal for you, like trying to be your friend. And you don't get that in Poland. You don't get that in Serbia. You don't get that in Croatia. The people are super friendly once you get to know them, and they'll show you a good time. But it's definitely more genuine. So that's something I really like just about this part of the world.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think that, at least from the way in which people's knowledge of certain countries has evolved, oftentimes it seems like the places where a lot of people love going have a higher chance of there being people who may have disingenuous intentions because they know they can take advantage of you, or they know that there's a way in which they can use your kind, like their kindness, to leverage something for them, versus when you're in Eastern Europe, or if you're somewhere else where people are not as open to just come and be your friend and give you a big hug and are so excited to see you. It's because they might be a bit skeptical at first, and it takes them time, like you said, to be open to meeting new people in a more genuine and authentic way, which, although maybe at first it can seem a bit cold, but actually in the end it's a lot more beneficial than if somebody's sprinting to come meet you and help you out the second you get out of a taxi or an Uber when you're somewhere in Western Europe. Because my traveler senses would start tingling and say, okay, why is somebody so excited to meet me and to help me right away as soon as I arrived in this place? Is it because they can tell I'm not from here and they want something from me?
Absolutely, yeah, that's it, 100%, man. After you meet somebody here, a few visits, they start to open up a little bit. They say, why are you here? Where are you from? And then one thing leads to another. You go out for a drink, go out for a coffee, and that's kind of where the friendship starts in this part of the world.
So I know that you've had the opportunity now to be able to travel to several countries, and one of the things that has given you the opportunity to do so is through real estate investing and through being able to do things in the world of real estate that have given you tons of leverage with where you can travel, where you can live, and the people you can meet. How did you even end up getting involved in this? Because I'm not sure if it's something that you anticipated initially was going to be the vehicle you would use to be able to travel and live a life of freedom.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I honestly never thought that I would be like buying properties and flipping them or investing in them. I always wanted to be a real estate agent. I used to really like watching like Love It or List It or any of those real estate shows, $1 million listing, New York, that type of shit. So that kind of inspired me to, want to have the fancy car, wear the nice suit, and sell the luxury properties. But, when you're 17, 18, you have big dreams of doing something like that, but really no experience. Who's going to take you seriously and want to do business with you and buy a property from you? It's you need experience, know about real estate. So nobody's going to buy shit from you if you don't know anything about construction and know the basics of real estate. So he basically taught me everything I know about construction and renovations and real estate in general. When I was 18, me and my father did a deal together in Elmwood. We bought a property for 70K. This was back, I guess, in 2013, 2014. Things were a lot cheaper back then, so you could get into a property really cheap, hoping to, do a quick fix and flip, make 30 grand. It took a lot longer considering my lack of experience and me doing most of it on my own and my father having a full-time job. So that's kind of where it started for me. We ended up flipping the property, made 70 G's in profit, double what we expected. So that kind of got my foot in the door to real estate. Up until that point, I had been doing like anything to avoid having a real job. I've always kind of been entrepreneurial. Like, I just don't like authority. So I was cutting grass, detailing cars, flipping furniture. As soon as I got my driver's license, I was hauling shit to the dump. I had ads on Kijiji. I was doing 10, 11-hour days, just stacking up as much cash as I could to put into real estate because whether or not I knew I was going to flip properties or not, I knew I wanted to buy something to rent out or at least buy my own home. So that's how I got started in real estate.
Now, I think one of the things I've noticed recently with real estate is it seems like people look at it like the socially acceptable version of a get rich quick scheme. Oh, all I have to do is buy property and flip it and boom. Or all I have to do is become a real estate agent and the next thing you know, voila, now I'm on my way to walking down the road of riches.
Yeah, I hear about that every day, man. People say to me, "Oh, let's do a quick flip together. Let's make some quick money." And they see that I've done it. I've done 100 properties, and they think like, "Oh, if I can do it, they can do it." And absolutely, anybody can go ahead and do it. You don't need a license. You need a little bit of money, and you need some common sense. But I would say that 99% will fail. They probably don't have what it takes. It's a lot of hard work. It's not like the TV shows. It's not you go buy the property, you put in a quick 10 or 15, some paint, some carpet, that type of thing, and you make a crazy profit. You really have to get dirty. You have to be willing to do the work. You have to know something about construction. There's a lot of guys that are doing it that know nothing about construction. They're finding the right deals. They're hiring contractors and going about it that way and doing it more on a bigger scale. You can make money that way, but just doing one flip and trying to get your foot in the door, if you think you're going to just buy a property, hire somebody, I can almost guarantee that you're going to lose money. And the real estate agent thing, I know a lot of people that want to be real estate agents because they think it's an easy job, but it's not. Those guys work 24/7. They're always on the phone. They're always on the computer. They know what they're talking about, the ones that are making money. I don't know what the percentage is, but I think it's like 10% of the agents in each city kind of control the market. The other 90%, do 3, 4 deals a year and basically work at McDonald's.
Yeah, man, it's kind of the reality that most people aren't shown or that isn't shared. And again, it's not to say that people shouldn't start or they shouldn't try, but I think oftentimes that there's this false perception that all you have to do is just sell something expensive a few times and boom, you're chilling. But
Yeah,
the big caveat is learning how to sell the thing that's expensive.
absolutely. I think that people shouldn't do it. They shouldn't get into it unless they're 100% committed to it and they want to do this for the next 5, 10, 15 years because there's guys that are doing this full time right now. I used to do it full time. I don't do it full time anymore. I consider myself more of like a traveling kind of 50-50 real estate guy. I'm not fully invested in it anymore. And it's definitely harder to find the deals because when you have people that are doing this, they wake up, they look for deals, they buy deals, they fix them, they sell them. They're going to crush you. They're going to crush me not doing this full time. So definitely, if you're going to start investing in real estate, make some good connections in terms of not people that are already doing it, because I find a lot of the people that are already doing it want to sell you some bullshit or they're going to give you the shitty deal. You need to find the right real estate agents, kind of see what agents are working with people that flip, and then kind of just network with them, talk to them, tell them you're thinking about getting your foot in the door, and go about it that way. It really comes down to the real estate agents you work with. If you have the wrong agent, you're not going to make any money.
One of the things I find the most interesting about people who embark on these kind of unconventional paths is many of them have a similar story with their experience around going to school. And I know we've talked about this a little bit before, but many people who go through school are told, well, get a real job, or you need to have a high education. But time has proven over and over that while maybe there's some benefits to going to school, sure, oftentimes I think it's this limiting belief that people have been almost indoctrinated to believe, because the reality is you learn by doing, and the things that you have to do in order to make the kind of money that would allow you to be free to travel are oftentimes not as a result of things that you're doing in school.
Yeah, that's 100% correct, man. I don't know anybody that's really gone to school that has a life that I would want to live, or has the things I want to have. There's a lot of guys that, make six figures a month doing stockbroker type business, or lawyers, dentists. They're making great money, but they don't have the freedom. They can't just go to Spain for a month, or go to their kids' soccer game whenever they want. They're really tied down to that business or to that job. And that's something that I've never wanted. I've always wanted to be in control of my time. I'd rather make less money working for myself, because at the end of the day, life is short, and really you just need to be able to do what you want to do, in my opinion.
So how did you navigate your experience from when you were in school to learning how to figure out this life? Because again, everyone has to go to grade school, at least in Canada,
Yeah,
but like what?
I truly believe I didn't pass school. Like, looking at my grades in high school, I think they just pushed me through. I didn't show up a lot. I think grade 11, I missed like 72 math class or something like this. I was getting emails to my parents every day about me not being there. I was not a good student at all. And I didn't like it. I didn't like the concept of school, like sitting there all day listening to some shit about Shakespeare or geography, or just in general, like, how is this going to apply to real life? How is this going to make me money? How is this going to buy me a nice car? How is this going to buy me a Ferrari? I would like nice things. I don't want to be poor. And seeing these teachers drive to school in their shitty cars and they look miserable. Not to say all teachers are bad. I know a guy that he makes seven figures a year. He owns an English language school. So there is money in teaching. I think you just need to do it privately, and do it on your own terms.
Mm. Man, I think there's something I saw yesterday that I thought was actually super interesting about schools. And it was Elon Musk talking about the practicality element and how a lot of it's missing in school. But he said, okay, if you were to teach somebody, let's say you're working on a car, if you were to teach someone how to fix a car, you would have to, okay, we need a jack, we need wrenches, we need drills, we need tools, we need whatever things in order to help us prepare to fix his car. And when you start to learn how to fix the car, you would start to have questions and you would start to experience problems, because naturally you wouldn't know the answer to everything you have to do in order to get the result you're looking for. And by going through that process, you would learn hands-on how to fix exactly what problem you're going through, because you would have no other choice but to figure it out. Whereas he said the way that analogy would be approached in school is, okay, well, you have a class on using wrenches and a class on using power drills and a class on whatever. So the
Right.
subjects are segmented in a way that don't give you the why behind doing the action. Why am I doing this? Well, just go learn about wrenches or go learn about engines. And so when you actually are able to compile those subject matters into one place in a practical environment, then that is where 90% of learning is actually going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially just being a young student, you're asking yourself, why am I here? They don't really tell you. They just make you learn it. It's hard to focus. I couldn't sit still in school. My mind was just constantly running, like asking these questions. Why are we doing this? What is this going to do for me? This can't be useful outside of school. This can't be what got my parents to be able to buy a home or buy a car or build a family, like learning about Shakespeare.
If you were to restructure or to create your own school environment based on what you know has helped you with learning, how would you do it?
It depends on the age group, really. Like the whole system from 1 through 12, or what? What age group are we talking?
Well, let's say maybe for kids in high school. There.
Kids in high school? I think I would make them have some real life experience. Go actually work on the job and do something. Like choose a few sectors that interest them. Maybe one is real estate, one is banking, one could be fitness, carpentry, whatever they're interested in, and then maybe divide the year up into four parts and go try each one. Go actually shadow somebody doing the job and learn about it. I think that would be useful, be a real life skill. And then just teaching people to fail, like making them not be afraid to try things. Um, I just find now that the way the schools are raising children, because essentially that's what they're doing. They're not teaching your child anything. They're just kind of brainwashing them at the end of the day to believe their beliefs. And I think that it's raising a weak generation because everybody is becoming entitled. They think that if they just graduate school with good grades, go on to a good university, pay X amount per year, they get their certificate that says they have a bachelor's or a master, and then they feel special. They think they should be able to walk into the job and get, 100, 200, 300 grand a year because they went and sat in a classroom for 6 years and paid money. Really have no real life skills.
Yeah, man, it's such a crazy concept to fathom because even for myself, I went down the stereotypical path of go to a good school, go to a private school your whole life and stay in line, don't ask questions. And I remember halfway through high school, I never took French, but we had a teacher who taught French that people always would label as crazy. They always said, "Oh man, this guy's nuts." And I remember in grade 11, they restructured the homeroom system. And everyone was kind of frustrated because they're like, why would they do it? Why would they change? Why would they change? It was working. But how did we know? And what happened instead was they had smaller groups for homerooms and with more teachers that you might never have interacted with if you didn't take their classes.
Okay.
And I actually got to know this teacher quite well in 2 years, or basically half of high school. And before I used to think, oh, this guy's crazy and he's always like on people's cases and saying these things. But then when I took his class, like then when I got to know him every single day, I was like, wow, this guy's probably the most brilliant teacher in the school. And he was very outside of the box thinking, very much question everything, very much kind of like Robin Williams in Dead Poet Society. Go out, learn, do things, experience, practice, try, fail, try again. And what it really taught me was that from the outside, it's very easy to put labels onto people who don't do things that you agree with. But it isn't until you truly do it for yourself that you can be the judge of their messaging.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think far too many people judge others or, in terms of travel, judge countries without being there. They assume something's going to be an awful country, third world, everybody's poor. They're so unlucky to be there. But then when it comes down to it, you actually visit a lot of these countries, Ukraine being a great example pre war. When I was spending a lot of time there, people from Canada told me I'm crazy. Like, why are you in Ukraine? It's so poor there. It's such an awful country, unsafe, all sorts of nonsense. And then you ask these people, have you ever been to Ukraine? They say no. So what do you know about Ukraine? You know nothing. You know whatever Google tells you, whatever the news tells you, whatever the government wants you to believe, that's what you believe. So until you actually get on the ground, you can't really have an opinion. You can have an opinion. Everyone's entitled to an opinion, but your opinion doesn't matter. It's not, there's no facts behind it. Go there and experience it for yourself. And in terms of my experience in Ukraine, it's a phenomenal country with great culture, great people, best food in the world, in my opinion. Not just Ukrainian food, but all different types. And the people there live really well. The stuff you see on TV about like the war, and I remember when the war happened, when it started, there was like showing villages of like horses, like hauling potatoes and carts and all this sort of bullshit, making it look really poor. People there are driving Ferraris, G wagons. The women are all dressed nice. They're wearing fur coats, and not everybody. There's definitely poor and rich, just like anywhere, but the rich are definitely living far better than a lot of the rich people in Canada.
It's such a great point you bring up because the media will create perceptions that they want people to believe, but you don't actually know until you go there firsthand. And I think that's one of the best things of travel is learning how to demystify perceptions of places that get a bad rap. And one of the former guests on this podcast I was talking to, she had trekked from United Arab Emirates to China on a Jeep, and she crossed through how many countries in Asia? Tons, Iran and Iraq, and went to Syria and all these places that people are told, don't go to, super dangerous, terrible. People are mean. They're going to rob you or do bad things to you. And she's like, yeah, of course. There's always going to be people out to get you in no matter what country you go to. And of course, the chances of that are going to increase based on population size or based on if you're in a wars, if you're in an area where there's political conflict or turmoil, then that may increase. But for example, she was talking about going to Myanmar, and she was saying, well, as long as you don't go to the borders, any of the three major cities of Mandalay, Yangon, and Naypyidaw, you're going to be fine. But when people see advisories on the web, on the internet or on TV, all they hear is civil war or every single square inch of the country, there's just bombs and mines and people out to get you and kill you. So you shouldn't go. Like,
Right. Yeah, if you Google a country and it comes up on the Canada travel advisory, like the majority of countries that I like to go to, you Google it and it says like, don't go there, it's unsafe, this or
yeah,
that. It's there's always going to be something that tries to keep people from going there. I feel like in North America in general, we're just kind of brought up to believe that like this is the place to be, this is the greatest place on earth. Even I remember growing up as a kid, like a lot of people would tell me, you should be so proud to be Canadian. It's so much better than being an American. When you travel all over the world, Canadians are far more respected than Americans. And I think it's just a real joke at the end of the day. It's just brainwashing. And personally, I'd much rather be an American. There's a lot more opportunity over there, a lot more culture, better business opportunities. And personally, I think better people, stronger people, especially with what we saw during COVID, all the Canadians turning against each other. I mean, it happened in every country, but I think America did a far better job, at least in some of the states. That's
yeah,
actually that's actually really what led me to leave Canada for good was the whole COVID thing. I always wanted to live somewhere else. I actually always wanted to live in United States. I thought maybe I'd live in Arizona, maybe in Florida, at one point California, but definitely not California now. Florida could be appealing, but I'm quite happy in Europe. I think it's the place to be. But yeah, back to the COVID thing. That that's really what gave me the push. Was like this all feels so wrong. Why are they trying to keep me from traveling? Why can't I go to the gym without taking this or wearing this? Why can't I go to the restaurants? Why are people treating me a certain way because I chose not to go along with what everybody else was doing?
mhm.
So that's how I discovered Montenegro and the Balkans and Serbia, Bosnia, Croatia. Just being over there during COVID times was amazing. People are so amazing. The restrictions on paper would be the same as what we had in North America, but they just weren't enforced. There was no anything. So it was quite a great place to be, man.
I think that's one of the beauty, or I think that is the beauty of traveling is when you get to learn about the way of life in other places. And oftentimes it's very easy for us. Of course, people in Canada and the US are privileged compared to many places in the world, and our quality of life is definitely in the top 25% of anywhere you can live on Earth. However, having said that, it can also be easy to take for granted what we have here in assuming that the way that we live life is better than anywhere else, and anyone who thinks otherwise is dumb or should just go live there themselves. Because how do we know that every single thing we do is the best for each person who lives here?
Absolutely. Yeah, it can work great for some people. Like Canada has a lot of great things about it. America has a lot of great things about it. And you just have to find what works best for you as an individual. Like maybe you're not aligned with the values in Canada, so you go live in Europe, you go live in the Caribbean, you go live in the United States, New Zealand maybe. Like the world is so big, there's so many opportunities. It's quite easy to move places. A lot of people are working remotely. It's easy to get residency permits. I think that more people should venture out of their comfort zone and just go live somewhere for a year. If you don't like it, you can always move back. Like, what's the big deal?
Like you said, man, life is short and it's very easy to get caught up in only one way of thinking. And when you go somewhere else, it really exposes your mind to another way of life, another culture, another language. And I have a handful of friends who have gone to move abroad. And I remember us talking about it during 2020 and 2021. And when they did it, I was so happy for them because I knew that they took a chance on something that means a lot to them. And seeing how much joy that they felt in moving to whether it be like Japan or the United Kingdom or Spain. I love to see people who feel that they have found a place where they are truly in their element. And for many people, that could be Canada because there's a lot of people who enjoy the privileges and the comfort of being here, which is great. And for those
Definitely.
people out there who want something that's different or they want to be able to taste the different flavors of what cultures have to offer around the world, go do that. Don't wait because there's there's never a best time to do it and you'll never feel truly ready. You just have to go and figure it out.
Yeah, you're never ready. You just gotta save a bit of money if you don't have any. Like, just make a plan and just do your best to hit your goal. And if you fall a little bit short, just go anyways. Figure it out once you get there. I'm not saying move to another country with $300 in your bank account, but save up a bit of money and go try something. Like, what's the worst that can happen? You don't like it, you can return home, you can go back to working your job, and then at least you know you tried. You got to see something different, experience a different culture. All it really takes is to do it right one time. So maybe you go to Thailand and that's the perfect place for you. You launch a business and things are booming, and now you live in Thailand and you're a multimillionaire. Whereas maybe in Winnipeg you were making 60 grand a year working at RBC. You know, who knows what can happen?
You're absolutely right, Ty. It's been great being able to chat with you. I had a lot of fun discussing freedom and travel, experimenting, learning, trying. And if you were to share a message with people who are in their 20s trying to figure out how they want to go about living a life that might be unconventional, what would be the biggest piece of advice you'd give them?
Don't compare yourself to others. Focus on yourself. Don't dive into a relationship, especially the young men. You know, if you're in your early 20s, just go to the gym, get physically fit, make as much money as possible, and just focus. The relationships are going to be there when you're 30, 35. We're not living in the 1930s anymore. You know, people don't need to settle down when they're 21. I think you should just really build yourself up before you put all your energy into a partner and trying to build a life around that partner. I think that's the greatest advice I could give anyone, and it applies to men and women. That's kind of what I would say.
I love it, man. I couldn't agree more. Being able to focus on yourself and learn how to build yourself up to be your true authentic self will then make it a lot easier to fit along with someone who's doing the same versus trying to mold your life around another person right from the get-go before you know who you are.
Yeah, 100%, man.
Well, Ty, I appreciate your time today, man. It was great getting to chat, and thank you again for sharing the advice and the wisdom that you've gained from your travels across the world.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.